Good morning, good afternoon, depending on which time zone you're in. Welcome. It's good to see everybody. Um, this has been the culmination of months of planning from, with an incredible team of people who are really dedicated to Slowfish, the community, the network, the mission. So we're really happy to get this started, and we're going to get it started on a very spiritual, very powerful note. Wade Fernandez is with the Menominee Nation in Wisconsin. He's a veteran of the Slow Fish Crew Together webinars that we did last year. His music is very powerful. It transports you immediately. He was going to be playing live for us. However, because of a miscommunication, it wasn't going to happen. So he recorded a very special message for us. And we're very blessed to have him in our community. So we'll let him set the tone. Felix, would you please start us off with Wade?
Much talk, Aswesian, Wichiwin Peace Mahwao, Wade Fernandez, Mokaman, and Aswesian, Oasin Totem. I'm Wade Fernandez, or my Menominee name translates to Walks with the Black Wolf, and I'm from the Menominee Nation Reservation in Wisconsin, in the land of the beautiful Wolf River and a number of lakes and over 95% wild forest. And I'm so honored to be here with all of you for the Slowfish 2021 virtual gathering. You've done so much, all of you, in a good way for Kokomasakamакano, for Grandmother Earth, by respecting the fish and the waterways. And this is a good time to put our minds together for 7 days and our hearts together to see what more we can do and how we can move on from here. So I'm going to share some music with you, and I'll see you throughout the 7 days. Whopping away, son. Imagine what so many go. Need you know, say, what's the name about? Catch me, you. Come here, lucky. Don't get caught up, keep us the enemy. Guess in time. Swear to me, yeah. Swear to me, yeah. Swear to me, yeah.
Wow. I don't know about y'all, but that kind of got me in the slow fish feels, right? I mean, that's really sort of a spiritual connection, and Wade does it every time. Um, really bringing home, sort of the connection to the resource and why we need to take care of that. We're going to talk about that shortly. So if you haven't had a chance, you saw when you got in, we've got expo booths, different speakers, artists are setting up their expo booths. They've got links to their websites and stuff. And Wade Fernandez does have one there. He's got some great information. He does great advocacy work, bringing the cultural and artistic narratives of the Menominee Nation out around the world. Obviously not in the past year, but that's part of like some of the work that he's doing today in Milwaukee. So that's why he couldn't be with us. So go check it out. Take a look at his expo booths, look at other people's expo booths, and sort of see the community that we're building there too. Right now, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly Collins Geyser so that she can share some information about schedule and what's coming up next.
Hi, good morning. I'm getting a little feedback there, but I think it'll go away. Good morning, everyone. So great to see everyone. And good afternoon, sorry. I'm gonna switch over to East Coast time very shortly. I just need to get my mind wrapped around it. So I wanted to welcome all of you here at Slowfish. This past year has been challenging, but motivated and us to gather in so many different ways. It's taken a lot of innovation and creativity to continue to run our businesses while building our communities and protecting family. Slowfish is a combination of so many great things, mostly you guys and the diverse people, ideas, and values, and those values, perseverance flows vibrant with this community, and I'm forever grateful for the relationships and wisdom you have all brought to the Slowfish Network. These next few days, we will hear a number of important issues, and we will dive deeply into the conversations that will challenge and inspire us. I want to briefly go over some of the ground rules, the ground fish rules. We are here because we acknowledge how important it is to support good, clean, and fair seafood. As we get deeper into these sessions and discussions, there are space for those who wish to speak, give feedback, information to share, and continue diverse and thoughtful conversations. There will be a broad range of perspective and difference of opinions. We ask you to respect those differences, challenge ideas and not people. The Hopin platform has many ways to communicate. So use the chat section. As I mentioned earlier, you can chat to the entire event or just the session that you're in. You can create private rooms and meetings with the other attendees. And you can visit the network and happy hour space at the end of each day. So please feel free to walk yourself through this platform, take yourself to the different zones. And like Kala said, the expo section is really interesting to find out what's out there and explore that. So you'll need to register again for next week. So I'll remind you at the end of each session where you can register. I think it's on the main page here for the registration page. And so at the beginning of each day, I will be here to welcome you all and share the schedule. And I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns, or I can direct you to the person who can do that. So here we are, yay, today, first day of Slowfish 2021. I'm really excited. Denisa Livingston will be welcoming us with a land acknowledgement blessing. After Denisa, Anna Mule, and Paula Barbeto and Kala Stoll will update us on the latest of Slowfish or Slow Food USA and Slowfish International, and Slowfish North America. And Jim Embry will share a note on equity, inclusion, and justice. Okay, now is my time to change over to the Eastern Standard Time. So all of the times that I say here will be East Coast time. So around 1:20, we'll hear from our keynote speaker, Buck Jones, with the Columbia River Intertribal Fish Commission. And around 1:50, we'll start with the Seascape Cafe, World Cafe. So the cafe themes today are growing the network, advocacy and action, and young fish harvesters. And we'll wrap up around 3 and move on to the marketplace of ideas and happy hour. So I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you throughout the event.
I think what we'll do is go straight to Jim Embry to give us an update on equity, inclusion, and justice, which is part of our narrative, and Ana Paula and I will sort of talk about that a little bit further. Jim, are you ready? Oh, you are ready to go. That's awesome.
I'm ready. We're ready.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
Can we hear me fine?
Yes, we hear you great.
Okay. Thank you. Say good afternoon. I want to thank you all for allowing me to say a few words to open up Slowfish 2021. I bring you greetings today from several sources. First of all, from this bioregion. I am sitting here this afternoon on our 30-acre family farm that goes back in our family to around 1890, when my formerly enslaved great-grandparents purchased this land. Our farm and community sit at the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. Our land is nourished by the soil, heavily mineralized by limestone rock. This region is also bathed by the Kentucky River watershed and was originally inhabited by the indigenous Cherokee and Shawnee peoples. On the farm, we have 2 ponds that we still fish in, but I will not tell stories today about the big ones that got away. Secondly, I also bring greetings on behalf of Slow Food Equity, Inclusion, Justice Working Group, which I co-chair with our dear friend, Charity Kenyon. We've been working for many years to inspire our Slow Food organization to put our snail on a skateboard when it comes to equity, inclusion, and justice. As we know, 2 years ago, and that in mind, then we drafted the EIJ Slow Food Manifesto. And lastly, I want to bring greetings as a Kentuckian. I want to bring greetings from the family of Breonna Taylor, who, as we know, was killed by police officers just a year ago on March 13th. The Ohio River, which flows by Louisville, Kentucky, is connected to our river, lake, and ocean systems and carried the pain and anger of Breonna's death all around the world. So our oceans and freshwater systems are not just sources of fish, but they also carry the trauma as well as the hopes and dreams of ancestral spirits. For the last 500 years in particular, we have been impacted by an industrial age mindset that seduces all of us to live a fast life, to treat Mother Earth as a machine and as a resource to be exploited and devastated for profit. This mindset teaches us to be predators of the Earth family members, whether on land or in the oceans. However, Slowfish USA is part of this incredible global slow food Terra Madre network that wishes to shift this mindset, instill a way of thinking of Mother Earth as the source of life, and to embrace a sacred regard for all members of our ecosystem. Now, I believe, And within slow food, we believe that by fundamentally shifting our food, farming, and fishing culture towards equity with a sacred regard for all members of our family, our movement can serve as a pivot point for systemic changes in all other institutions. And I want to share 6 reasons why this intersect of food can be a leverage point. Point number 1, modern human culture is founded upon the development in simply how we eat, how we harvest food from the forest, from the oceans, and from the pastures. The reason why we can sit here today on the phone and on our laptops and have this conversation is because somebody else is out there harvesting, transporting, and distributing food. So food is fundamental to human culture. So now, of course, as we know, humans began to do fishing some 150,000 years ago. And when women developed agriculture some 12,000 years ago. So these 2 elements about food then serve as the roots and the trunk of the tree of human culture. And all of our other institutions, all of our other human cultural professions are served like the branches of this tree. Second reason, the rise of agriculture some 12,000 years ago allowed for the rise of the city-state, and with it, the formation of patriarchy and the oppression of women. Historically in our country, and still today, we find some of the most horrific examples of violence towards women, injustice towards women occurs within the food and agricultural sector. So agriculture is an important leverage point for this dismantling of patriarchy. Third reason, in the founding of our country, we recognize that it was the pursuit of agriculture that led to the seizure of land from indigenous people and the enslavement of Africans. This quest for land and labor for agriculture planted the seeds of injustice in the USA. And our failures to resolve these long-standing contradictions within agriculture can also provide the fertile soil for seeds for righteous justice in every institution. The fourth reason, I think it's 4, this legacy of enslavement still means that agricultural and food workers are paid the least, have the greatest income inequality, and have the least workplace benefits and safety measures. The people who work within the food and agricultural sector during the COVID crisis were identified as being essential, like agricultural workers, slaughterhouse workers, food service workers, and small farmers. However, they are still treated as being expendable. So we know within slow food, there is something deeply broken within our food and agricultural sector. But since we have learned from Wendell Berry that eating is an agricultural act, then every person, regardless of their institutional affiliation, can act to help transform our food system and their own workplaces. Fifth reason, the food system is about as complex as we can get and includes the intersectionality of labor, racial, gender, and disability injustice, animal and fish welfare, food sovereignty, religious and spiritual traditions, water quality, air quality, soil contamination and erosion, land reparations, agricultural law, climate change, the diverse rights of non-human nature as written into the rights of Mother Earth. So as we apply this holistic approach to this complex system, then this transformative capacity of food and agriculture will reverberate across all institutions. Now, 6th point, and now I'm pulling this fishnet into the boat. This is my last point. Every 2 years, small and peasant farmers, people of the rainforests and deserts, herds people, fisher people, activists, the elderly, along with the young and teachers, all regarded as the weakest divisions of our society, gather in Torino, Italy for Slow Food's Terra Madre experience. This gathering, which involves 8,000 delegates from 170 different countries, is part of a global movement of millions who believe that food access through farming, forestry, and fishing is the leverage point for more profound change within all institutions globally. And we know what we're talking about. Our Slow Food family members are all especially inspired by the Indigenous Terra Madre Network, which challenges us to proclaim that we're all indigenous to the earth. Here on Turtle Island, in North America, all of us recent immigrants, however we came here, have now the opportunity through this intersect of food, fishing, and farming to learn from and work with indigenous peoples to develop an earth-centric worldview, to replace our homocentric worldview. As we embrace and manifest this earth-centric worldview, then we will be better able to bring about this transformation in how we view our human and non-human family. Lastly, an African proverb says, when spiders unite, they can tie up a lion. So thank you from Kentucky.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for sharing Kentucky.
My honor.
Okay, I hear Denisa is ready, and we're going to move on and invite Denisa Livingston with Turtle Island Slow Food. Thank you, Denisa.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you are, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Yad Abine, Shea Denisa Livingston in Nishiak, the cheating, the shan, Chishes and Bashichin, or Zaydana touching the Dashe, Don, Nanish, Eje touching the Dashanella. I Sidan Nasha, A Tedagon will, yeah, Diakwit, Dian Ishila. So, Yad everyone, that means all is well in my Dene language. I'm here in my homelands of Dinetka, in the traditional homelands of my Dene people, also known as the Navajo Nation here in the Southwest in the New Mexico area. And thank you for inviting me. And also it's an honor to be here with all of you. And I wish we could definitely be in person. We would probably running on some fuel, some coffee and energy and just excitement of being amongst one another, but that day will come soon. Today, I am going to be sharing with you the land acknowledgement, the protocol of us as Indigenous people. And so if you could just take the time to really embrace this moment as we are seeing the change in every which way, in every direction within the past year. And I definitely hope we don't return to where we once started before the pandemic, but actually progress to what we and our ancestors have. And so as Slow Food brings us together and we do this temp check and heart check for one another, making sure that you're well, making sure that everyone is well. I thank you for the Slow Fish event that's happening right now, where I just have a heart of gratitude, and we should have a heart of gratitude for all the organization that has been put into this and the effort and the energy. And so as we take this time, we want to do the land acknowledgement and the Indigenous protocol of this. And so this acknowledgement is a meaningful action as we connect with our authentic relationships intentional and meaningful informed actions. And when we do this, it's an opening to the greater public awareness and also consciousness of native sovereignty and also cultural rights. And as we do this, we're honoring the truth of narratives of Indigenous peoples and showing respect to our practices and spiritualities that are tied to the land. And as we continue to develop critical relationships and healing strategies for us all, we're also incorporating this practice into our events, but also making it the fabric of our culture code here, like I've been speaking about in the Slow Food Leadership Summit and various aspects of, how do we do this? And so if everyone could just take the time right now as we pay our respect and honor the relatives and the youth, both past and present, who have stewarded this land through generations of Turtle Island, take a moment to connect with the land that you are currently on and acknowledge the original people and stewards of the land and the water in the area that you are currently at. As we practice this mindfulness of the present and the past and the future participation, we welcome you in this time together in this Indigenous protocol. So let's take a moment there to just be in this space and acknowledge all the livelihood and the things that our ancestors have placed in us, and also what we will be as descendants and also ancestors as we already are, that as we embrace this time, it truly is a spiritual nourishment for us all. And as we do this, one of the acknowledgements that we can do is if you share in the chat which traditional homelands you're currently on, that is acknowledging and also calling and also honoring the place that you are. And so if you could do that, that would be wonderful to hear and also read from where everyone is at right now. One of the things about doing this acknowledgement and taking the time and the space to incorporate this into our event is we also want to acknowledge in Indigenous communities that we have placed in a pandemic on top of pre-existing continual perpetual epidemics and the hardship that our communities have faced this past year. We have faced much grief and trauma in our communities, and we just want to acknowledge that for every one of you. There has been some loss, there has been some growth, there has been some pain, and some of us have contracted the COVID-19 virus and are still dealing, with the effects of it and the consequences of it. But despite that, we are here together, and we are here to empower one another and to be united and to be in Indigenous solidarity as we see the political climate change and also what we see in Indian country, that things are moving in Indigenous resurgence of food traditionalism and food sovereignty. The other thing is, as we are in this space, I really want to acknowledge the strength and the joy and the love and acknowledge that our ancestors were very resilient and their adaptability quotient was very high. And we're just learning how to do that. We don't look like what we've been through. And that is really a true testimony about that resilience and also all of these good things that hold us together to heal and to recover. So, give yourself some love and make sure that you have that self-care as we know that our communities are depending on us to be able to lead them and to guide them and motivate and also inspire them. We're going to come out with this with more trauma than we've ever imagined. And so we are responsible on how we heal. We are responsible how we lead our healing strategies, and also how we hold events and spaces to acknowledge what we've acknowledged today. And so if you can remember from last year, do you remember when we were at the beginning of the pandemic, I had mentioned, let's not be a carrier of fear and panic and anxiety. Now, 1 year later, I'm still saying the same thing, to be a carrier of hope and resilience and joy, and also to carry forth the pandemic of prayer, peace, and positivity. Some of you probably remember that, but also one other thing is to remember your bag. The bag that you carry, even either spiritually or physically, is, acknowledging your BAG, your blessings and your acknowledgements, your achievements, and also your goals. And so just love yourself, and also know that we are here, building this culture code of friendship and allyship. And it's really important that, that we have not had the same experiences, but together we are on that road trip that I mentioned at the Leadership Summit, that everyone has a role, everyone can be a change maker. And whether someone's going to be driving or being a co-pilot or funding the road trip or providing the snacks and the food and the slow fish and all of the things that bring us together to get to those goals that are very important of equity, inclusion, and justice and biodiversity. And so I just really appreciate all of you as we acknowledge our collective synergies and collective action, and also, more importantly, the collective protection as we acknowledge our plant and animal relatives. And so I really appreciate every one of you, and I hope that you enjoy the Slow Fish event. I will be later leading one of the World Cafe sessions, and I'm just really excited as I just now stepped out of the Terra Madre, the international event for our International Indigenous Terra Madre presentation about empowering Indigenous youth in our communities, and the partnerships with IFAD, and looking forward to the United Nations Food Systems Summit. And those of you that have known that I'm one of the champions of the summit, and so you'll see more movement, more national dialogues, global dialogues, and also independent dialogues as we want to contribute to the summit and be a part and ensure that our voices are contributed there. So I thank you, everyone, and it's really great to just be in this space. I know I can't see everyone's faces, but you're seeing mine, and I hope my smile is resonating that peace and also that love into your space and also into your home and the work that you are doing. So thank you for everyone and the important work that you are doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Sister Denisa, so much. It's always a treasure to have you bringing your prayers of peace and positivity and everything else to us, because it sets such a great tone. So now we're going to get some updates from Slow Food USA, from Slow Fish International, and from Slow Fish North America. So Anna, do you want to sort of take us off?
Yes, it's nice to see everyone here. I think actually Paula will start us off and talk about the international perspective before I get into Slow Food USA. Thank you, Paula, over to you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Coach. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Paula Barbeito, and I am the coordinator of the Slow Fish International Network. I'm here based in Torino, where the city that Jim just mentioned some minutes ago. And what I'm going to share with you actually resonates very well with what Jim just said some minutes ago. Well, I'm sure that we are all familiar with that, but I think it's important that we remember that again. As you probably know, Slow Food was born almost 30 years ago to counteract the whole fast food logic. We want fast, we want easy, we want cheaper food, but what is the real cost of this? Have we really thought about the real cost? And even more important, who is paying that cost? Well, the answer to that question is we. We are paying the cost in very different ways. For example, to have cheaper food has negative consequences in our health. And we see the level of dietary issues in our current societies. But reducing prices means also reducing the variety of food that we can eat. And this is translated into the loss of knowledge, the loss of professions, and so the loss of jobs anchored to the territories. And in the end, if we think in the long term, it's also a matter of cultures that are disappearing. Cultures that have existed for thousands of years, where people used to live in perfect harmony within a specific territory. They also disappear. So with this context in mind, Slow Food has evolved as a global network of committed people to change the food value chain, which is nothing else than changing how we relate to our food. It's a matter of building relationships around those who produce and transform your food, those who sell you the food, or those who prepare the food for you. So the value chain is a matter of building solid and trust relationships. This fantastic global network is trying to bring consumers closer to the origin of their food, inspiring their curiosity and guiding them towards responsible choices. And this involves not only the rediscovery of forgotten tastes or the different flavors that the globalized market tends to eradicate, but also, and what I think it's essential, this global network is trying to highlight, to protect, and to make known to the world that there are heritage available that some communities still have. And I mean, I'm talking about skills such as time-honored fishing practices, or how previous generations ate, and the familiar or unfamiliar resources that we have in our rivers, in our lakes, in our seas. All these things belong to our history and to our identity. But today, in the dynamics of the modern world, these things are canceled. And so if we want to preserve the knowledge of those who still resist and manage to keep this heritage, because we think that these people will show us a better future. And so I can tell you that the Slowfish International Network is made up of these people. We have collected knowledge from different coastal communities around the world. And with this knowledge, we have built our campaign. This campaign aims to increase the resilience of coastal communities and ensure that they can develop a sense of common destiny through the sustainable management of the valuable resources. The development model we want to promote is based on the involvement of all the local actors, supporting the link between land and sea. It is crucial that we reinforce this link. Because what happens in land has terrible consequences on the oceans. Think about the use of chemicals in the form of fertilizers or pesticides that are used in intensive agricultural systems. All these chemicals arrive to the coast and kill the plankton. That is the base of the aquatic web. We don't have plankton today, we will not have fishing communities in the future. So we need a harmonious and responsible use of all available resources, so as to ensure the application of sustainable practices through the promotion not only of fishing techniques, but also agriculture techniques or breeding techniques that respect the equilibrium of the nature of the ecosystems. And I think one of the big challenges that we are facing right now, and that Jim put it very well before, is we have to recover this holistic view. We have to understand that everything and everyone is interdependent. And in an interconnected world, solidarity and collaboration are crucial. So taking in consideration the complexity we must embrace to make the way we eat healthy, respecting the different actors involved in the value chain, and honoring our home, our planet, the Slow Food Global Network is thinking in the future of the movement around these kind of questions. How can we preserve the biodiversity of our planet without compromising the access of communities to those resources? How can we reposition local communities in controlling the resources? What can we do to fascinate society with the complexity of this interconnected planet? What tools do we need to ensure that the decisions of those who eat, for example, fish, do not impact the future of coastal communities? Well, I'm sure this Slow Fish Summit will provide so many answers. Thank you. And over to you, Anna.
Actually, I think, Paula, the plan was for me to follow you.
Okay.
I'm just gonna, all right, so here's the thing. We have a new mantra at Slow Fish here, and that is, and I'm gonna quote Brett Tolley here, and that is, it's slow fish, we roll with it. So you know what, we might, skip around a little bit here, but it really is, we roll with it. And that's how we do it. Adaptability is really key. So I'm gonna, if you'll permit me, I'm just gonna attempt to share my screen real quick because I want to take a little bit of a walk down memory lane. So why don't you chime in on chat if you were in this photo? Because this photo was the first event, in-person, full-bore gathering of slow fish in North America. This was in 2016 in New Orleans. I love Lance Delac down here holding up this, I think it's a snapper, like he's holding up a pet chihuahua. But this is a community that we built. It, technically speaking, the Slow Fish North America movement started around 10 years ago, but in a short period of time, we built a big movement here. This was a gathering of slow meat and slow fish, slow meat in New Orleans and slow fish. This was a great event. And yeah, we always have food and always like to party. And, this was part of our adaptation. And this is where we had some fresh seafood, and nothing says fresh seafood like pornographic Mardi Gras floats. But this was part of our adaptation. A 500-year storm comes in and we had to move, and we did it nimbly, and the network responded, and we still got some work done. We still had some really important conversations. And this conversation, as you can see Michelle here up on the table, expounding beautifully on something probably, I think it was around messaging and policy. And we dug in and started coalescing around the values that we share. The values are something that's important to us. And because of the passion of the network, we did it again. This is in 2018. And again, a team of people committed to the values, to the network, to uplifting the voices that matter. And of course, we had some fun. We had some music, we had some food, but we also did some work. Again, talking about key issues, whether it's bringing more youth into fisheries or dealing with policies like cat shears that are working toward privatization and consolidation of the industry, we address these issues. And so coming up on our biennial, we were planning on doing this 2 years later, last year, and we all know what happened. 10 days before the event was scheduled, we had 200 people signed up, and we had to do the ultimate pivot. And so we did. We ended up doing a series of webinars. And again, the attendance of those webinars, the passion that people showed, the energy that they brought, brings us back to the fact that the community is stronger. And so here we are now. The reason I wanted to bring this up is that that's what holds us together. I mean, at its heart, Slow Fish is truly a grassroots network. One of our core missions is to uplift the voices of those within our network who share our values of good, clean, fair seafood, who fight for community-based fisheries and the protection of the clean water and healthy habitat those fisheries depend on. Again, this is just echoing what Paula just said. We want to stand up and uplift the voices of those who stand up to privatization, consolidation, and other forces that would squeeze them out. Those who fight for fair pay, equality, and a safe place to work. Those who support direct supply chains and the process for ensuring product quality. And this is something that speaks back to what Denisa was talking about, where we're looking at trying to, maybe evolve coming out of this pandemic. So you'll hear some of these stories in the coming days as we reflect on these values. In fact, during the World Cafe that's coming up, and later in the week, you'll hear stories of advocacy and action. such as when Slow Fish folks united in opposition against offshore net pen fish farms earlier this year, or as the continued fight against the Pebble Mine in Alaska. You'll hear those stories. You'll hear about programs to support youth in fisheries to ensure traditions and values pass from one generation to the next. This is important. I mean, the graying of the fleet is there. Also, as part of the grassroots nature of the network, we celebrate the diversity of voices representing a broad diaspora of perspectives and cultural backgrounds from across the continent. As we grow, we continue to hone our culturally diverse identity, even as we see connections and common themes with other communities from around the world, just as Paula was talking about. Relationships matter. Resilience matters. And we just heard from Jim Embry about a shared vision toward a more inclusive, equitable, and just community. That's important to the growth of the slow fish. And we'll continue to broaden our awareness about the importance of preserving the indigenous connections to natural resources that both Jim and Sister Denise have mentioned during Saturday's deep dive session on indigenous access to food systems. There are really powerful lessons for all of us in those stories. And as a grassroots network, we're using our shared values as a compass to navigate how we position our collective views on complex topics, such as the impacts of industrial aquaculture and the blue economy on community-based fisheries. We'll dive deep into those topics sessions next week. This grassroots network has grown organically over the past 10 years, and that's because we've held tight to our shared values. I've said it before, and I'm gonna say it again. The strength of the Slow Fish Network is the passion and commitment of every person gathering around those values. Case in point, Wade Fernandez, whom we heard from at the very outset of this, spent 4 hours late last night producing that special greeting for our community. Today, he's in Milwaukee on a 12-hour film shoot. He did this because he believes in our mission. And it happened because it was a miscommunication on my part. So God bless him for taking the time to do that. But that's the point. It's that passion, that commitment to the belief in what we're doing. That's what's holding us together. Will we always agree all the time? Hell no. That's impossible. And particularly with this lot. All right, it's a little strong, but get 4 or 5 fishermen together, try to get them on the same page. But the reality is that the strength of our network also depends on accepting some differences at the table we all share in support of our values. The answers may not always be black and white, but as long as we continue to find common ground around those values, even tweaking them when necessary, our collective will continue to grow and continue to get stronger. The synergies with the slow food community that Anna's going to talk about shortly are an important part of bringing our values, our stories to a broader populace. So as we take stock of just how far we've come and look ahead to our future, we'll take every opportunity to continue sharing your stories, sharing your challenges, your successes, your connections as we grow the network. For now, let's take stock of the passion and energy we each bring to this event, all of us, and be ready to dive into and engage in some important discussions. We want everyone to share ideas, collaborate, think about what you want to see from Slow Fish in the future. That's part of the grassroots nature, and celebrate reconnecting with friends virtually. And one other thing, mark your calendars. God willing and the creek don't rise, we'll be doing this in person next March in New Hampshire. So with that, I just want to say thanks to Anna and Paula. I'm going to turn this over to Anna so that she can bring in the Slow Food USA perspective and sort of tie everything up in a nice little package.
Thank you, Collis. No pressure. No, thank you to both of you. It's been since planning the event for New Hampshire, then canceling that, changing to webinars, we've had a lot of time to get to know each other, and I have been really blown away by the collaboration and bottom-up approach of Slowfish. You know, ever since I met Collis and Brett and Michelle back, I don't know, in 2018, Collis, was it 19? It's been a real pleasure to work with you and to create better synergies and integrations between Slowfish North America and Slow Food USA. So I manage Slow Food USA, and here in the US we have over 5,000 members. We have about 115 chapters. We have a variety of national thematic working groups. And as I, work with Slowfish, I've seen this network as a model for how other groups can really take a bottom-up approach, a grassroots approach to collective action and to working together and to really collaborating with the movers and shakers of the industry. So I'm excited to develop and deepen our relationship between Slowfish North America and Slow Food USA and Slow Food International. This is all Slowfish, slow food, and like Jim talked about, we need to not put our food in silos, right? It's not just fish operating on itself. It's food together with fishing, with farming, with seeds, with equality. And we need to come together to see how those threads weave in the intersection of all these different areas. I really like, Jim, what you said about this is an Earth-centric worldview, and the Earth is a web. So I think you can see slow food as the spiders, like Jim said, when spiders unite, they can tie up a lion. We are weaving a web together between slow fish, between slow food, between our Cooks Alliance, our youth network, our Slow Books group, our school garden leaders, our food and farm policy group, our equity, inclusion, and justice group, all of our chapters, all of these groups come together and they connect with each other, they align around a united vision, and then together we can create these campaigns and activities to make real change. And so I'm excited to put our full support behind Slowfish to see how we can deepen and strengthen these integrations. And like Denise said, we're on a road trip, right? We all have different roles. So my role might be fundraising and helping with logistics, but we are all in this together. And I'm really looking forward to learning from you all over the next 2 weeks, and then making ties as much as I can between the other parts of the Slow Food Network in the United States and the Slowfish community. So I'll keep it short. I want to make sure we have time to take a little break before Buck Jones comes on for our keynote talk. I want to just take a moment to quickly thank our sponsors, because that is an important part of pulling off an event like this. So all the sponsors are listed on our reception page, but they include the Lighthouse Foundation, Sitka Salmon Shares, T-Buck Suzuki, Farm Aid, Pride of Bristol Bay, Wild for Salmon, Dock to Dish, and the Marine Fish Conservation Network. So we thank all these sponsors, and please, let's keep in touch. If you have questions for me, you can put it in the chat. If you have questions throughout, just feel free to reach out. I'm open, and again, thanks to our sponsors, thanks to all the teams who have put this incredible event together.